case of spinal cord, it is only single layer. The dura mater in the cranial cavity, it consists of two layers. They are the endosteal layer and the meningeal layer. So the endosteal means within the bone, okay? They are the outer layer and it is attached to the bones of the skull. And the meningeal layer is the inner layer and it is closer to the brain. So in the cranial cavity, the cranial dura mater, it consists of endosteal layer and the meningeal layer. In case of spinal cord, only the meningeal layer are there. So the two layers they fused except to include the dural sinuses. Dural sinus we discussed in next class. And the arachnoid matter, the meaning of arachnoid is spider, something like wave-like structure, okay? And the innermost is the pia mater. The pia mater is the delicate and it follows the convolutions, means it follows the gyri and sulci of the brain. Okay, so the three layers are the dura mater, arachnoid matter, and the pia mater. Dura mater in the cranial cavity consists of endosteal and the meningeal layer. The arachnoid matter and the pia mater are same in cranial cavity and the spinal cord. So move on to the individual layers. So the dura mater is the outermost layer, which one is dense fibrous tissue. So it provides the strong support, strong covering support to the brain, and loosely arranged fibroelastic layers of the cells are there. And fibroelastic layers of the cells, they are responsible to provide the dense structures of the fibrous tissue in the dura mater and characterized by the multiple interdigitating cell processes. And it consists largely of the collagen fiber. So the collagen fibers are also providing the tough or the dense support to the brain. So it is the layer which provides the strong support to the delicate brain. So here we can see the dura mater, the arachnoid matter, and the innermost is the pia mater. So outermost, toughest, thick fibrous membrane is the dura mater. So this consists of two layers, the outer endosteal layer and the inner meningeal layer. So in living condition, the dura mater looks like this. Okay, so this is the dura mater in the cranial cavity. These are the layers of the scalp and this one is the cranial bone and this is the brain. Okay, so this is the occipital lobe of the cerebrum and this one is the cerebellum. So here we can see the sagittal section and this one is the coronal section. So this is the dura mater in the normal condition. So the inner meningeal layer of the cranial dura, it forms four inward projection or the processes. They penetrate between the various parts of the brain and separate one from other. They are the falx cerebri, tentorium cerebelli, falx cerebelli, and the diaphragma coeli. So falx cerebri is here, tentorium cerebelli on each side just above the cerebellum, so that it provides the tent or the roof-like structure to the cerebellum, and falx cerebelli between the two cerebellar hemisphere. They are the meningeal layers. They goes inside the brain material and they separate from each other. They are the falx cerebri between the two cerebral hemisphere, tentorium cerebelli to provide the roof for cerebellum, falx cerebelli between the two cerebellar hemisphere, and the diaphragma coeli on the sella turcica. Do you have any queries, anybody? Are you getting? Deepika, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
So do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And Atal, are you there? Atal. Akash, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Can you picturize the brain within the cranial cavity?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So move on to the individual fold. Okay. So the falx cerebri as the name suggests, it is the fold which is present between the cerebral hemisphere, okay? And it is the sickle-shaped fold of the meninges. It projects mid-sagittally from the roof of the skull into the median longitudinal fissure in the interval between the two cerebral hemisphere. So two cerebral hemisphere, they are separated to each compartment with the help of the falx cerebri, okay? Two ends are there in the falx cerebri. They are the anterior end towards the anterior cranial fossa and the posterior end. Two margins, they are the convex margin and the concave margin. So falx cerebri is something like this. Okay, so this is the fold of the dura mater which is present between the two cerebral hemisphere, and this is the anterior end. This one is the posterior end. Two surfaces, two borders are the convex border and the concave border. So they are the two ends, anterior and posterior. Two margin are the convex and the concave. So anterior end, posterior end, convex margin and the concave margin. So this is the falx cerebri present between the two cerebral hemisphere. So anterior end is narrow and fixed to the crista galli of the ethmoid bone. So anterior end is fixed and attached to the crista galli of the ethmoid bone here. And posterior end blends with the upper surface of the tentorium cerebelli in the median plane. So posterior border, posterior ends, it is present on the above surface of the tentorium cerebelli here. So anterior end and the posterior end are there, and the convex margin attached along the lips of the sagittal sulcus on the inner aspect of the cranial vault as far back as the internal occipital protuberance. So this is the convex margin in the sagittal section. It is present within the vault of the cranial cavity in the inner aspect of the cranial vault on the sagittal sulcus, and the superior sagittal sinus is contained along the convex margin and terminate behind, usually in the right transverse sinus. So the superior sagittal sinus is present in the convex upper margin of the falx cerebri, and it terminates usually in the right transverse sinus. So the superior sagittal sinus continues as the right transverse sinus, and the concave margin is free and comes closer to the corpus callosum in the posterior part. The inferior sagittal sinus is contained along the free margin. So this is the inferior sagittal sinus. So superior sagittal sinus, and this one is the inferior sagittal sinus. Next is the tentorium cerebelli. As the name suggests, it provides the roof or tent-like structure for the cerebellum, okay? And it projects in the transverse fissure which intervenes between the occipital lobes of the cerebrum and the cerebellum. So here, this is the tentorium cerebelli on each side of the midline, and it provides the tent-like, roof-like structure to the cerebellum, and it resembles the tent for cerebellum, has attached margin and the free margin. So here we can appreciate the attached margin on the transverse sulcus on the posterior cranial fossa structure, and free margin is here in the midline. So it has the attached margin and the free margin. Are you getting? Samiksha, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay, move on to the attached margin of the tentorium cerebelli. So we are discussing about this, the posterior attachment and the lateral attachment for the attached margin of the tentorium cerebelli. So posteriorly, it is attached along the margin of the transverse sulci of the occipital bone, which extend bilaterally from the internal occipital protuberance. So here will be the internal occipital protuberance. So on each side of the internal occipital protuberance, there is attachment of the tentorium cerebelli on the posterior aspect. The pair of the transverse sinuses are lodged along this part of the attached margin. Transverse sinus means the right transverse sinus and the left transverse sinus. The right transverse sinus continues from the superior sagittal sinus and the left transverse sinus continues from the straight sinus. And laterally, the tentorium cerebelli is attached along the upper border of the petrous part of the temporal bone, and it contains the superior petrosal sinus. So here, upper part of the petrous part of the bone, and it consists of the superior petrosal sinus. So these all are the attached margin of the tentorium cerebelli. And the anterior end of the attached margin of the tentorium cerebelli attached to the posterior clinoid process of the dorsum scaly of the sphenoid bone. These bony structure we can demonstrate in the bone class in the interior of the cranial cavity. For the time being, attached to the posterior clinoid process means just behind the sella turcica in the dorsum scaly of the sphenoid bone. And the free margin, it presents the U-shaped tentorial notch, which with the concavity directed ventrally. So it has the attached margin and the free margin. And free margin, it presents the U-shaped tentorial notch with the concavity directed anteriorly. So the anterior end of the tentorial notch means the free margin is attached to the anterior clinoid process of the lesser wing of the sphenoid bone. So attached margin attached to the posterior clinoid process and the tentorial notch of the free margin attached to the anterior clinoid process of the lesser wing of the sphenoid bone. So during these attachment of the anterior end of the attached margin and the free margin, there will be the trigone or the triangular structure. This trigone is known as oculomotor trigone. So the area of the dura mater in front of the crossing between the free and the attached margin of the tentorium is known as oculomotor trigone. And this trigone is pierced by oculomotor nerve and the trochlear nerve. So oculomotor is the third cranial nerve, whereas the trochlear is the fourth cranial nerve. It is important for MCQ. So oculomotor trigone here, it is in relation to the third and fourth cranial nerve. The diaphragma sella. Anybody, any queries? Rishabh, are you there? Kushal? Kushal, are you there? Kushal, are you there? Nandini, are you there? Nandini?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So diaphragma sella or the sella turcica, the dura mater in relation to the sella turcica is known as diaphragma sella. It is the horizontally oriented circular dural fold which forms the roof of the sella turcica and is perforated in the center by the infundibular stalk of the hypophysis or the pituitary gland. And the fold is attached in front to the tuberculum sellae and behind to the dorsum sellae. So tuberculum sellae and the dorsum sellae are the anterior and the posterior limit of the sella turcica. And it contains a circular intercavernous sinus along the attached margin. So here we can see the important structures in the cranial cavity. So this is the interior of the cranial cavity, anterior cranial fossa, middle cranial fossa, and this one is the posterior cranial fossa. So now we are discussing about the falx cerebri, which is attached on the clinoid process, anterior clinoid process over here, and it is in relation to the upper surface of the tentorium cerebelli here. And the tentorium cerebelli, it has attached margin and the free margin. So attached margin is attached on the transverse sulcus transverse groove from each side of the internal occipital protuberance and the upper border of the petrous part of the temporal bone. like this. It is attached here, and this attached margin is attached to the posterior clinoid process. So this is the posterior clinoid process, which is the continuation from the dorsum sellae. So this is the tuberculum sellae and dorsum sellae, and this one is the scella turcica. So this is the posterior clinoid process. And the free margin, the tentorial notch, is attached to the anterior clinoid process somewhere here. And this triangular area is known as oculomotor trigone, and it is in relation to the oculomotor nerve and the trochlear nerve. So this is the body of the sphenoid bone having the sella turcica. In normal condition, it is occupied by the pituitary gland. Are you getting the bony landmarks? Are you getting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So next structure is the falx cerebelli. It is the sickle-shaped fold of the dura mater, lies below the tentorium cerebelli and extends forward from the internal occipital crest to the posterior cerebellar notch. So this is the internal occipital crest, and this is the posterior cerebellar notch somewhere here. The falx cerebelli is present, and the base of the fold is attached mid-sagittally to the inferior surface of the tentorium cerebelli, and the apex is directed to the posterior margin of the foramen magnum, and it is contained in the normal condition to the occipital sinus. So falx cerebelli, and there is presence of occipital sinus. So here, this is the area for the falx cerebelli. Once again, this is the foramen magnum. This is the petrous part of the temporal bone, internal occipital protuberance. The transverse sinus is present here in the transverse groove. And this is the sella turcica. On each side is the cavernous sinus.
No.
Anybody? Do you have any queries?
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ ಊಟ ಅವರಿಗೆ
Do you have any queries? Anybody? Who is discussing over there? Who is discussing there? Do you have any problem? Aryan, are you there?
Hello.
Sakshi, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you getting or not? Who is disturbing here? Who is disturbing the class? Do you have any queries? Please ask. Otherwise, listen quiet, okay? So, function of the dural processes. Falx cerebri and the tentorium cerebelli divide the cranial cavity into three compartments. So, falx cerebri from above and tentorium cerebelli from below. It divides the cranial cavity into three compartments. So, supratentorial compartment and the infratentorial compartment are there. So, each compartment, it contains the cerebral hemisphere on the supratentorial compartment, and in the infratentorial compartment, it contains the brainstem and the cerebellum. Each compartment appear to restrict the movement of the brain. So, this is the falx cerebri. It divides the cerebral hemisphere on each side. It is present between the two cerebral hemisphere, and the tentorium cerebelli between the cerebrum and the cerebellum. And the dural processes provides the room for accommodation of the venous sinuses between the interstitial and the meningeal layer. So all the dural sinuses appear between the interstitial and the meningeal layers, except the inferior sagittal and the straight sinus. These two sinuses are situated only within the meningeal layer. So inferior sagittal sinus and the straight sinus are present between the meningeal layer only, but all other sinuses are present between the interstitial and the meningeal layer. So move on to the arterial supply of the cranial dura mater. So anterior cranial fossa, it is supplied by the anterior meningeal branches of the anterior and posterior ethmoidal arteries. So the ethmoidal arteries, they are the branches from ophthalmic arteries. Middle cranial fossa, they are the branches from the middle and the accessory meningeal artery, and these meningeal artery are branches from the maxillary artery. Posterior cranial fossa gets supplied from the posterior meningeal artery. They are the branches of the vertebral and ascending pharyngeal arteries. So these meningeal arteries are responsible to supply the arterial supply to the cranial dura mater. And the nerve supply of the cranial dura is by the trigeminal nerve. Trigeminal nerve is the fifth cranial nerve. So that is all about the dura mater. Move on to the arachnoid matter. So arachnoid matter is derived from the Greek word arachnes, means something like spider. Okay, so it is the delicate, transparent, avascular membrane. Looks like spider web-like trabeculae are present, and subarachnoid space between the arachnoid matter and the pia mater, which consists of cerebrospinal fluid and provides the cushioning effect to the brain. So arachnoid villi are the finger-like projecting into the dural venous sinuses, mainly into the superior sagittal sinus, and these arachnoid villi are responsible for absorption of the CSF, and the reticular core of the arachnoid villi is permeated by network of minute channels which permits a unidirectional flow of cerebrospinal fluid. So these are the arachnoid granulation within the superior sagittal sinus. Okay, and here we can see the dura mater. This is the arachnoid mater, and this one is the pia mater. So subarachnoid cisternae are there. These are the dilatations, and they are filled with cerebrospinal fluid. The cisternae appear in those regions where the pia mater lines the depth of each fissure and sulcus of the surface of the brain. Okay, and three cisternae lie ventral to the brainstem. They are the pontine cistern, interpeduncular cistern, and the chiasmatic cistern. They are the subarachnoid dilated area, and the two cisterns lie dorsal to the brainstem. They are cerebellomedullary and the superior cistern. The cerebellomedullary cistern are the largest posterior border of the cerebellum and the medulla oblongata, and the interpeduncular cistern on the center on the base of the brain, chiasmatic cistern on in relation to the optic chiasma, the pontine cistern in the ventral surface of the pons and the two temporal lobes, and the superior cistern or cisterna ambiens, it is present on the dorsal aspect of the midbrain. So you should know the name and only the location of the cistern. So the dilatations here we can see the pontine cistern. This is the fourth ventricle, and this is the cerebellomedullary cistern, superior cistern. Okay, so these are the dilatation of the subarachnoid space and consist of cerebrospinal fluid. So this is the sagittal section of the cerebrum, corpus callosum, thalamus, hypothalamus, midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, and cerebellum. The term leptomeninges are there. So leptomeninges means arachnoid matter along with the pia mater. So the pia mater is the tender mother or the delicate membrane which follows the sulcus and gyrus of the brain. It is vascular and intimate with the brain and the spinal cord. We cannot separate the pia mater. The pia mater along with the tuft of the capillaries, they form the choroid plexus which secrete the cerebrospinal fluid. So the talar choroidea is the bilaminar fold of the pia mater. It is found along the roof of the third ventricle and the lower part of the fourth ventricle. So vascular pile friends, the choroid plexus is responsible to secrete the cerebrospinal fluid, and the CSF then passes along the central canal. Are you listening? Are you listening?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And after the secretion of the cerebrospinal fluid in the choroid plexus, they circulate within the different ventricles and ultimately absorbed by the arachnoid granulation and goes to the systemic circulation. The next move on to the cranial meningeal spaces. So there are important spaces in the cranial cavity. They are epidural space, potential space superior to the dura mater. Yes,
Ma'am, slide शेयर भएको छैन
छैन?
छैन म्याम
Keyboard. Wait. Can you see now?
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
you see the slide? Can you see the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the cranial meningeal spaces are clinically important. They are the epidural space, subdural space, and subarachnoid space. So epidural space is the potential space superior to the dura mater. Subdural space is the potential space between the dura mater and the arachnoid mater, and subarachnoid space is between the arachnoid mater and the pia mater, and it is filled with cerebrospinal fluid and contains the blood vessels supplying the brain. So epidural outside the dura mater, subdural between the dura and the arachnoid mater, subarachnoid between the arachnoid and the pia mater. So here we can see the dura mater, arachnoid mater, so subdural space, subarachnoid space between the arachnoid and the pia mater. And this is the superior sagittal sinus with the arachnoid granulation. And this is the cerebral cortex. So that is all about the covering of the brain. And move on to the covering of the spinal cord. It is covered by three meninges continuous with the brain. So dura mater is thick and fibrous, extends up to the S2 vertebra and pierced by filum terminale. Filum terminale is the extension of the pia mater and laterally pierced by the roots of the spinal nerves. An extradural or epidural space, it lies outside the dura mater but inside the vertebral canal in the spinal cord and contains areolar tissue, fat, internal vertebral venous plexus, and epidural anesthesia is given in the epidural space. Arachnoid matter in the spinal cord ends at the level of S2 vertebra. Subarachnoid space continues with the brain and it contains the cerebrospinal fluid. And the pia mater is thin, transparent, adheres to the spinal cord. Below it ends at conus medullaris, continues as thin silvery thread-like filament called filum terminale. And the filum terminale is a tentative around 20 centimeter long and presents 21 pairs of tooth-like projections on each side of the spinal cord. They are the ligamentum denticulatum attached to the inner surface of the dura mater, helps to anchor the spinal cord. So they are filum terminale and the ligamentum denticulatum are the modifications of the pia mater. So the extension of the pia mater or modification are the filum terminale from the conus medullaris, linea splendens at the lumbar labor, and ligamentum denticulatum on each side of the spinal cord. So the applied aspect or the clinical importance of the meninges are the meningitis. So inflammation of the meninges is known as meningitis, may be fungal, bacterial and viral, and the tumor in relation to the meninges is known as meningioma. And very important procedure is done in known as lumbar puncture. So this is the procedure how we do the lumbar puncture. So lumbar puncture is the procedure where the needle is inserted between the L3 and L4 and sometimes L4 and L5 and subarachnoid space which contains the spinal nerve roots of the cauda equina. done for meningitis especially and for the CNS diseases. This is the investigative procedure. And subarachnoid hemorrhage blood present in that case, and not be done in patient with high intracranial pressure. In case of increased intracranial pressure, the herniation of the brainstem can occur and the individual can die immediately. So that it is contraindicated in hydrocephalus patient. So this is the procedure of lumbar puncture. So the stalks of Pierce during lumbar puncture are the skin, subcutaneous tissue, supraspinous ligament just above the spine, interspinous ligament between the spine, ligamentum flavum on the lamina, epidural space will be raised, and then the dura mater, arachnoid mater, and ultimately the needle goes to the subarachnoid space and can aspirate the cerebrospinal fluid for investigative procedure. So stalks of Pierce during lumbar puncture is important for SCQ. The next applied aspect of the meninges is the thrombosis of the superior sagittal sinus may occur due to the spread of infection, and the commonest symptoms of thrombosis is increased intracranial pressure. In that case, we have to think about the contraindication of lumbar puncture, and the middle meningeal veins are more closer to the bones than the arteries, so more prone to turn during the fractures causing extradural hemorrhage. So these are the applied aspect of the meninges. So do you have any queries till now? Anybody? Rishabh? Rishabh, are you there? Nilambari? Nilambari, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
So anybody, do you have any queries? You can ask. So this is important. This is also important for MCQs. So stalks of Pierce during lumbar puncture and the procedure of lumbar puncture. The area we normally do the lumbar puncture in L3 and L4. And this is the modification of the pia mater, pilum terminale, linea splendens, and ligamentum denticulatum. And the difference between cranial dura and the spinal dura is also important. So do you have any queries? Anybody? And you should know the falx cerebri, tentorium cerebelli, falx cerebelli, and the venous sinuses in relation to these structures. Do you have any queries? Anybody? Okay. If you don't have any queries, have a good day.